What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. So we're picking up where we left off in the last video, and in case you missed it, last video I spent a ridiculous amount of time prepping and cleaning up a spare trunk for my E92 M3 in preparation for putting a big wing on the trunk. And so what we got going on today is just that. We're going to be installing that wing, but first, before we get to that, before we get to drilling permanent holes in that trunk that I can never ever go back from, I do have to install another wing. I didn't go super in depth in the last video about that, but essentially I'm going to put a little trunk lip on the edge because the new trunk, or the new old trunk that I ended up putting on the E92 M3, I got it looking substantially better than it was prior to me cleaning it up and whatnot, but there were some areas that I was not able to get all of the blemishes out, and most of that is on where the trunk lip would go, or where a trunk lip would go. And I just so happened to have one from when I picked the car up originally, so I'm going to go ahead and install that, and that will also kind of serve as a sort of guide for where I want to put the big wing on the trunk. So I'm going to toss that on, kind of go over that process. It's really easy. You've seen a million videos. I'm going to put some double-sided tape on it and stick it to my trunk. And then tomorrow, as you can see, I'm running out of light here. Tomorrow, I'm going to try to get around to actually installing the big wing that we have this video dedicated for, essentially. So enough talking. The sun's going down pretty quick. I want to get this wing on there. So let's get over to the trunk and stick on the little trunk lip that I have for it. Here we go. So I've actually owned this wing since I bought the car originally. The previous owner had it on the car, and funny enough, when I picked the car up, when I was looking at it, essentially the wing was kind of hanging super loose, like it was barely held on by the tape that the guy had it on there with. And I don't know how long he ran the wing for, but I drove it all the way home for about 6 hours with the wing like that and all dangling loose and stuff. And I think the reason it was like that is because, to be honest, this is a pretty poor fitting wing, and if it were up to me, I would run something different. It's just I already haven't, and I don't have to spend any money on it right now, and I think I can get it to fit a little better. I did previously, way back. You guys never saw it, and the reason I never put it in a video is because it was on the car one time for one day only. And that's when I realized that this part actually didn't fit that well, because after I put it on, the very next day, it was popping up on one corner over here, and I decided to take it off and just wait till I got a different one. And so the only reason I'm trying it again is because I think I might have installed it wrong. Again, this is not a very good fitting part for sure, but after kind of playing around with it a little bit and kind of figuring out where it should go for it to fit as good as it can fit, I think I should be able to run it. That's kind of what this attempt is. If you saw last video, I mentioned that this might be fix number one, meaning this might be the first attempt at trying to put a trunk lip on this if this one doesn't work. And that's what I meant, is because this one, like I said, does not fit very well. But like I said, I spent a bunch of time trying to figure out where I think it is going to fit the best, and that's kind of what I'm doing here, is just figuring it out one more time. Now that I am going to actually install it, I'm going to kind of figure out where I think it needs to go, line it up, put some tape marks down, and then we'll put the 3M tape on it so it doesn't go anywhere. So yeah, the next clip will be me trying to put this on, and hopefully it won't come off again. So here we go. All right, it is the next day. I did finish up putting on the little trunk lip last night, but unfortunately I ran out of light pretty quick. But let me show you guys a couple of clips of what it looks like right here. But yeah, it looks pretty good. It's one of those like 10 feet back mods, you know what I mean? Unfortunately, after sitting overnight, the edges of the wing did come up a little bit. They came unstuck a little bit, and I think it's just due to the shape of that part. Like I said, it's not a very good fitting shape to begin with, and so unfortunately, this is not gonna be the permanent fix for covering that part of the trunk where the damaged paint was, or is rather. Like I was saying earlier in the video, this is going to be attempted fix number 1, so it's looking like this isn't the fix that was going to do it. I'm going to have to get another one, but we can use it as a reference point. We could use it to kind of get an idea of where to put the big wing, and then, you know, obviously know what it's going to look like once the big wing is on, and once I get a proper fitting trunk lip for the car. So yeah, enough talking. Let's get into unwrapping the big wing and then kind of setting it up, staging it on the car, figuring out where I want it, and then inevitably drilling holes in the trunk that I'll never be able to remove again. So yeah, enough talking. Let's get into unpackaging this thing. Alright, so this is Ridgeline Motorsports ring spec wing. They have 3 different versions of this wing. I believe there's a 235i wing, the GT4 spec wing, and then their ring spec wing. This is kind of the medium length wing. I didn't want one that was too short or too long. I believe this one is 51 inches. It comes with the GT4 wing stands. Again, I went with kind of the middle ground between the different options that they have. This is the middle height, I guess you could say. There's a lower one and a higher one. And so this is the Goldilocks setup, in my opinion, for not too subtle, all things considered, you know, for a huge wing, and then not too aggressive, meaning it's not too high, it's not too wild looking. It should look pretty solid on the car. So next thing I got to do is kind of assemble the wing here on the table, and then go over to the car and kind of rig it up onto the car, probably with some tape because I don't have a second pair of hands right now, but kind of figure out where I want it on the trunk, and then I could locate where I want the holes to be, drill them out, and then obviously get this mounted on the car. So I'm gonna go ahead and toss this together, and then we'll kind of mount it up very loosely to the car, and then kind of figure out what we got to do before we drill the holes in the trunk. All right, this looks pretty insane. I have a few pieces of tape kind of holding the wing up here, but what I was able to do with that is get all of my guide marks made, figure out where the wing is going to sit, kind of figure out, you know, where to put it so it's even on both sides and, you know, even relative to the front and back of the trunk. And I think everything is good to go. I have it as straight as I think I can, and I think I have it as even as possible given, you know, what I'm working with here. So all I have to do now is take the trunk off, or rather take the wing off of the trunk, stuff the holes on the bottom of the wing stands with either some paper or some tape, and then kind of color that with some paint. And then I'll set the wing back in these little like guide boxes, you can call them. And then once I take the wing back off, I should have some reference points for where to drill the holes out. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. Hopefully I get it right the first try, because I really don't want to put more than 4 holes in this trunk. But anyways, let's get that going so we can get this thing buttoned up and permanently on the car. Alright, so this is what I was talking about. As you can see, I have just a couple pieces of tape in the holes, and as you can see, they barely protrude out past the wing stand itself. And the idea is that you don't want it too high, like too high off of the wing stand, otherwise you're gonna have a hard time putting this down against the trunk, but just a little bit of protrusion. And then I took a little paint marker and painted the tip of this, and then I kind of went over to the trunk. Once it focuses, I went over to the trunk and then just kind of laid it on and made sure all of my little guide marks lined up everywhere, and then pushed it down. And now what's left are paint marks on my trunk, which should line up to these holes theoretically. So now I can go ahead and drill those holes out, stick the bolts through the trunk, and then see if we can't mount this wing up pretty much permanently. All right, now going back after this. Here we go. All right, well, in typical fashion, I was not able to finish it in the time that I thought I was going to. Clearly, it's a new day. I'm in different clothes and stuff. But not only that, I didn't realize how much work I actually did without filming. The last clip you guys just saw was me drilling it into my trunk. But as of right now, the wing is installed. Everything is, you know, on the car. But before I show that to you, I do have to take the wing back off. I have a couple last few things I have to do before I, you know, permanently put the wing on the car. So I'm gonna take it off real quick, show you guys kind of what I did yesterday that I didn't film, and then we'll get it tossed on the car and hopefully get some cool clips before the sun goes down. So yeah, enough talking. Let's get it off the car real quick. I'll show you what I did yesterday. Here we go. All right, so as you guys saw in the last clip before the last one, I guess, where I was drilling out the trunk, this is where the holes ended up. I ended up being kind of into this like bracing underneath on this I guess upper hole, how you're looking at it right here, and then the lower hole, you know, missed and just ended up through this, you know, single panel. But same thing on the other side. And so what I decided to do, I don't know if this is gonna help, to be honest, but I felt like it was going to, just because I didn't want the wing, you know, with the downforce it will create at speed, to only be held on by the two little bolts right here in these holes. Like, I didn't think the trunk over time was gonna hold very well. It probably would have like bent at some point. And so all I did, this might be kind of lame or kind of cheesy or whatever, but I found whatever this is. I'm not even sure the actual name. I just went to my local hardware store. I want to say this is like a plug cover, like a plug in your house, like a cover for it, an outlet cover, but it's very stiff. Like, I can't bend it at all. And so I cut the corner out to be able to kind of fit it behind this little panel right here. And then, as you can see, the holes line up. And then now, the force of the wing being on here when downforce is created will be kind of spread over this piece where it sits behind the liner and the trunk itself. So I don't know if that will work 100%, but I feel more secure doing it like this than not having this here. And so, you know, obviously time will tell. But yeah, so there's that. Can't get that out, but yeah. And then of course, aside from that, I did kind of paint around the holes where the exposed metal was. I had a white paint marker, so it, you know, even kind of matches, but the metal is covered, so it shouldn't rust or anything. And then on top of that, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some double-sided tape on the bottom of these wing stands right here, and just kind of make the holes where, you know, the bolts would go, so that way it'll stick to the trunk as well and hopefully keep any water out when I wash the car and stuff. So that's pretty much it. Now I can go ahead and put the wing back on the car again and kind of get everything finalized for the last time, and then hopefully get out and get some shots before the sun goes down. The you know, overcast is rolling in, so let's see if we can do it real quick. All right, man, the wing is installed. You guys just saw it. It looks insane, man. The wing looks so good on the car. Dude, it just matches the personality of the car, I think, so much better than without a wing. I know the wings aren't for everybody, but I think in this instance, at least for me, it's perfect, man. It makes this car look just like that much more exotic, that much more aggressive. Just, I don't know, I think it's super fitting for this car. And dude, I couldn't be more stoked, man. I don't know, dude, it's just really cool because I've mentioned before in previous videos, especially when I first picked the E92 M3 up, that I used to have an E90 M3 a couple years ago, and back then I wasn't really making the money I was making right now. And you know, that car, I didn't get to do a lot of stuff cosmetically. I did a lot of maintenance, which of course is important, but I just didn't get to mod that car the way I wanted to. And now with this car, getting to do all of the stuff that I like wanted to do to this chassis, it's just really cool, man. It's cool to see this car kind of, the vision I have for it in my head kind of come to life, you know, before my eyes, obviously, and before your eyes if you guys are watching the videos. But yeah, dude, I couldn't be more stoked. It looks amazing. I'm stoked to get, you know, going on other like mods on the outside of the car. I have a couple more ideas for things I want to put on it, but I think this is a, you know, super solid starting place, I guess you could say. Other than the front lip that I've had forever, I think the rear end was kind of missing something, and with the big wing on it now, I think it at least evens out until I get other things going. But anyways, dude, I'm rambling at this point. I'm just super stoked with how the car came out. But let me know what you guys think. Like I said, I know wings aren't for everybody, but you know, I think it looks really good, and I think it suits this chassis really well. So I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are if you made it this far in the video. And yeah, as usual, you guys, I appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel, if you left a comment on this video, if you have anything you feel like you need to say. You know, consider turning on post notifications and, you know, sharing with your friends if that's something you're into. But yeah, if you made it this far, I appreciate you checking it out as usual. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.